Heavy is the head that has to manage all of this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
We're now incentivized to buy what we already buy.
Fumbling through college had me building.
I also got something done on the other side.
And that was right around, I would say, May, maybe right before renewing the lease for this property.
Welcome to the channel, Martha.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I was gonna say I am getting up there in age. I'll tell you what.
Bills paid by other people. Life was never this good. I had to step back, knowing that it's.
What if I tell you that the world has been lying to you? What if I told you that mostly everything that you've been learning in school would not help you reach financial freedom and success? You see, the things that separate most people is that they actually don't understand what it is that is setting them back. And 9 times out of 10, the words that they use are different than those who are actually financially free and financially successful would use. You see, we all have certain goals in life that we aspire for, but our goals are going to differ in so many ways. You see, my goal has always been financial freedom, financial independence, whereas somebody else's goal may be to be rich, to be wealthy, generational wealth, and to have money so that they may never have to work again. But you see, on the left side, being rich and simply not having to work for somebody else may very well mean that you're going to work 7 days a week in your own business. But instead of that, we'll see people fail, not necessarily try again in their own business endeavors, but try again in someone else's business. And you see, it's much, much harder to be a multi-millionaire and rich or wealthy to where you would want to be working for someone else rather than producing a product or service that you can sell and deliver to the markets yourself. You see, when people talk about marketing being the greatest tool that you have, it's actually a lie. You see, the greatest products don't need marketing. The greatest products will sell themselves. When the iPhone first came out, word of mouth, it got to everyone. Everybody knew what Apple was. It wasn't what you ate. No, it was that thing in your hand, a device that was far superior than any other device that I had ever seen in my life. At the time, I didn't have a phone, but I just knew the technology that was within this one device that people were carrying in their pockets was light years ahead of anything that I've ever seen before. And I knew without hesitation why it was so expensive, why it was so popular, why everyone must have it. And not only that, it was so fragile. Fragile to the point that if you dropped it, your life would be over. Everything, your contacts, your being would have been gone. And so not only did you have far more respect for this expensive device in your hands, but you were more cautious. You made sure not to drop it. I needed to protect this thing with my life. Where's the case that I could put it in? Where's the phone that I can put it in? I have amassed over $1 million before the age of 30 years of age. $500,000 in the stock market, $500,000 in the real estate market. And yet, I can tell you today that rich was never the goal. Financial freedom, goal number 1, achieved. Wealth beyond generations, goal number 2, not yet achieved, but working towards it. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to drop so many nuggets in this video that it's going to change your life forever if you're actually ready to take heed to the advice that's given. So before we get started, always going to show some proof, right? I have multiple accounts. If you've ever watched any of my videos before, you know I have multiple accounts. We have 401ks, Roth IRAs, individual stock market accounts, savings accounts. I have 3 savings accounts. One for emergency fund. You gotta have that. We're gonna talk about all these things within this video. We got our usable account. And again, that's just another savings account that I marked as usable funds. And that's what I'm going to use to buy real estate, do other things, even take a trip if I want. I also have a I'm gonna have to pull it up, but I have a third account for my savings, and right now that's a CD. I'm gonna see how I marked it, but right now I can tell you that 2 are for the long haul, just your emergency fund. The other one I marked as usable account, and the third one I forget what I marked it as, but I'll let you know as soon as I possibly can. And now another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that AI is definitely taking over the game. AI is taking over the game in more ways than one. And in one of my accounts, the stock market was down on Friday, and I'm doing this video over the weekend. But one of my accounts right here, as you can see, I hate that I'm not so tech savvy, guys. But if you can see this, about 5 figures in there. This is $85,901.91. To me, this is not a lot of money. In fact, I'm going to invest another 5 figures into this account either by December or January. But what am I going to be investing in to get this account to $100,000, 6 figures in 2026? I think that's more important than the number that's in the account. You see, when I started this account in 2020, so you guys know I'm not lying, it's gonna say here February 20th, 2020. That's when I started this account. It grew to almost 86,000, and again, I lost about $1,000, $1,200, whatever the case may be, just in a day yesterday. So this was easily over $87,000 just a few days ago. Why am I about to bring this one account to 6 figures? And again, I have over $500,000 in the stock market as we speak. Again, retirement accounts, and this is what I call my play account. But I'm not playing. This is serious money, at least for me, right? So why am I going to invest more money and bring this to 6 figures? It's not about the number 100,000 so that everything seems all glory in one page. I've never really put 6 figures in just one account. I've always diversified. There was points in my life where just a year ago I would have said, oh, I forgot I had money in a Series I bond. I forgot I had money in this CD over here. I forgot. And I loved when that would happen, actually, because I would be thinking about a deal. I'd be thinking about some real estate. I'd be thinking about how am I going to maneuver this money. And I already got 10K sitting here, 20K sitting here. And all of that just made me excited. It was like, wow, I have some sleepers over here that I can pull from if ever the case or the time needed for it. And the time did call for me to pull money out of a Series I bond and put it into a CD at one point because the Series I bond wasn't yielding what I needed it to yield. You know, Series I bonds, they can drop in interest rates and fluctuations. If you don't know what a Series I bond, I suggest you look it up. As interest rates go up in value, which they're not right now, the Fed is cutting rates. But as interest rates go up in value, Series I bonds tend to also go up in value. And if you can lock in a fixed rate with some of the bonds that the government offers, you may be more incentivized to do that rather than do something like a CD, which can fluctuate more frequently if you don't lock in that price right away. Like CDs are set prices, so I don't want to get you confused by that. But as interest rates drop, the CD can also drop. So why am I going to invest $10,000 to $20,000 in this account in the next few months before the year is over or at the beginning of the year? Well, it's because you have to be smarter than everyone else in order to be financially free and financially successful. You have to do something that, to me, is of no risk. Now, I call myself a medium risk investor, but for me, this is absolutely no risk at all because of the research, the due diligence that I put into everything that I do. You see, at the beginning of every year, I research all the companies that I currently have in my portfolio. in the stock market, and I ensure that they are going to be successful for the long term and that they still align with my values, my beliefs. I still use them, like them, want them, and believe in their future. Their balance sheets look good, and they're going to be successful for years to come. And not only that, but they either are growing at an exponential rate or they pay me a dividends. If this is a high level conversation for you, I suggest you take some breaks, inquire, or hire ChatGPT to help you out. Do whatever it is that you need to do in order to, keep up with the times. But we're going to keep pushing forward because, again, this is going to be a very informative video on how to really be financially free. And I need those who are keeping up to keep up. And make sure you hit the like button for this video because I am, again, dropping nuggets like I've never done before. So why am I going to invest another 5 figures into the stock market? Is because I am fully diving into what AI has to offer. Not only am I going to dive into what AI has to offer, but I'm going to be looking at the companies that are investing in certain companies that offer AI models. Now, if you are a person who has invested in the S&P 500 or VOO, which is the Vanguard's version of the S&P 500, then you're already invested into AI technologies. But just like I told people to invest in Meta when they came out with their 10-year plan with the virtual reality, just like I told people to invest in Tesla that was being a pioneer in the EV space, just like when I told people to get rid of their Disney stock, it's time. AI is time. It's time. It's time. It's time. A little 5-figure investment now is easily 6 figures on its own in just the next 5 years. And a lot of people don't understand that it's very, very important to choose wisely. And you're going to hear about the companies that I've invested in far after I've invested in it. But now is the time for you to actually start doing the research, actually start doing the due diligence. You have to be ready so that you don't have to get ready. And you see, people will say you're lucky. You're so lucky to reach financial freedom. You're so lucky to reach financial success. But the difference between me and those who will never be lucky is that I was already prepared. If you listen to my previous videos, I told you if you're prepared, you can then be lucky. If you're not prepared, you can't be lucky. If you don't have 5 figures saved, if you don't got $1,000 saved, you can't invest. You can't invest. So you can't get lucky. Does that not make sense to you? You see, people think that compounding their way to wealth is going to really change their lives and set them apart. But that was never my intention. It's not my mindset. My mindset is financial freedom. In order to be financially free, you cannot do something that requires you to work for the rest of your life. You see, somebody who is a doctor and makes $300,000 a year, but doesn't invest in the stock market, doesn't invest in real estate, doesn't invest in businesses, will continue to work their entire life. I don't care how much money you save. When that job is gone, your income is gone. When you go on vacation, you're not making more money than you would being at work. When I go on vacation, I make more money than I would being at work. Last time I went on vacation, I came back with more money in my pocket. It even surprised me. Last time I went to the Dominican Republic in February of 2025, I came back with more money in my pocket and I was spending thousands of dollars. Didn't even have a job that I was working at the time. So I wasn't getting vacation pay or nothing like that. Came back with more money in my pocket. I was perplexed, absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know that I was making this type of cash flow, this type of passive income. And so when we talk about financial freedom and financial independence, that's before you clock into work. Do you still require the job itself? You see, people talk about not working for somebody else. You want to be on that left side? Well, guess what? Financially being free will do that for you. Where you don't have to clock in, not for anyone else and not for yourself either. So what is your purpose? What is your drive? What do you then do? Because without purpose, without drive, you're just gonna waste away and probably shorten your lifespan. You have to have a purpose. You have to have a drive. You have to have an ambition. I remember being retired. I was 23, I believe, 22. First time I retired. You know what that? No, maybe 23, 24. First time I retired. You know what that did for me? It sucked me dry. I had no ambition, no drive. I said, what will I do? I was in Dubai. You've probably heard this story before. I was in Dubai, bored out of my mind. Invited my little brother, and it's so funny. I was listening to another multi-millionaire on YouTube talk about how they traveled to a different foreign country, invited their little brother just like I did. But the difference was is that they had taxes that they had to pay back, which forced them to go back to work. Me, I was bored out of my mind, and forced back to the U.S. to work and do something with myself. I brag all the time. People know. I brag all the time. I say, man, I don't have to clock in for a job. I don't have to go to work today. I can travel. I can do whatever. But instead, in the back of my mind, I know that my ambition won't allow me to just sit here and not earn as much money as I possibly can in order to fuel the passive income and do so much more. You see, because the goal now is not to travel to a foreign country in order to have the same lifestyle or make more money, but it's to do it right here in America that has granted me the opportunity to be rich in the first place. You see, that's where the ambition takes me. You see, people get satisfied at certain levels. We all heard of people who traveled the world and just stay overseas now because they got enough money to live overseas. You go to Puerto Rico, you can live a nice life with $50,000 in income a year for the rest of your life. But what about in America? What about in the U.S.? Why do you think I'm paying off the property so quickly? Why do you think I'm doing so much to get so much done? Why do you think I've never sold a property? Because I'm looking at how I can not only pay them off, but keep everything that I currently have and still keep growing. Why do you think I do that? It's because I am ambitious. I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. It doesn't stop. It does not stop. But the reason why I do this YouTube stuff is for all of you to understand that you got honest creators out here that isn't only in it for the money. It's not only for the chicken, but to also get everybody else who wants to be financially free and financially successful on the same page. On the same page. You see, because I already understand with the lifestyle that I want, things will continuously go up. That's called lifestyle creep, but I'm too smart to allow lifestyle creep to creep into my pockets and break them. Too smart for that. But you also understand that there's people that you also want on that journey with you, and you cannot finance their lifestyles as well. You can't. It's just very hard to do. You see, if you're a multi-billionaire, sure. Jeff Bezos, didn't he just rent out Venezuela for a marriage, for a wedding? Multi-million-dollar wedding. Multi-million-dollar. Imagine doing that for your families, for your friends, for everybody. Just rent out a whole island. No matter how much money you got, when you keep doing things like that, you eventually end up depleting your funds and resources. Yes, you can do that for a select few, but you can't do that for everybody. And so when I look at my lifestyle, okay, I can buy this car, I can buy that car, but I can't buy everybody a car. Nor what I want to. I want you to have some ambition. I want you to have some drive. I want you to have some grind. And that's the reason I made this channel, because it feels better when you've done it yourself. You might have had a guide, you might have had a mentor, but it feels better when you've done it yourself. And for those of you who actually don't get jealous, who actually don't say, F this person because they did it and they came out of nowhere and made something happen, you say, instead of that, how can I do it as well? You see, that was always my mindset. Let me dive deep into the real mindset of Festus Ozebi. Let me dive deep into how I really got to where I am. And there's a few lessons that you definitely have to take away today in order to be financially free, in order to be financially successful the way you want to be. Now, if you want to just be rich, continue to do what you do, and hopefully it works out for you. But if you want to be financially free, here's the model that you must follow in order to get ahead in life. So, rule number 1, and this is the most important rule: do not take advice from anyone who is not doing what you want to do. That is rule number 1. Do not take advice from anyone who is not doing or is not where you want to be. They've never done it. They haven't aspired to do it. They haven't tried to do it. But everybody has an opinion. You know how many opinions I receive? And at the same time, you're also going to receive so many acts for help, acts for whatever the case may be. And so rule number 1, look to those who are doing what it is that you want out of life, where you want to go. I look at multiple millionaires, multiple billionaires who have done what I am looking to do. I look for sound advice, sound reason, sound things, and I also look at historical quotes that people still use to this day, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. What does that mean? I'm pretty sure you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. So I can show as many people as I want the path, but if they don't want to drink the water, they simply won't. And so when I look at things like that, I know that I can't force everybody to be financially free. I can't force everybody to get that car the way I got that car. But what I can do is start a YouTube channel and say, you know what, if you are a horse that's willing to drink this water, here is the water. It's time to drink. It's really time to drink the water. It's no more time for waiting. There's no more time for hesitation. You see, I'm still, as we speak, yes, I'm about to invest a little 5 figures into this account, but I'm sitting on a lot more than that, doing nothing, just sitting in a savings account. Why am I being hesitant? Is because I got too comfortable. I'm comfortable right now. I'm too comfortable right now. And I am mad at myself for it. Mad at myself for it. I'm hoping that the little 5 figures that I wanted to put into the AI, I'll do even more than that. That's what my hope is. Because that means I know where to put my money to work, instead of it just sitting in a savings account with interest rates dropping, and now the interest on my savings will go down, right? And so I might say it's a little bit of money, and that might sound like it's, offensive, and that's good. That's absolutely good. What do you think I was going to say? That's bad? No, that's absolutely good. If you've never seen $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in your account before, then it's time to shape up. It's time to stop doing what you've been doing, and it's time to get wiser. So let's talk. Why and how did I get to where I'm at? Well, growing up in a single parent household at the age of 13 or so, I figured, you know what? I've never had a job before in my life, and it's going to be very difficult for me to live alone. My brothers were in the room playing games, chilling. My sister was watching TV. My mom was outside doing security. We weren't supposed to be home by ourselves, but she didn't have enough money for a babysitter. People would knock on the door. We wouldn't answer the door. Why would we answer the doors? Because they would call the cops and say, hey, these kids are by themselves at home. Or they could do stuff. They could steal. They could do whatever if we opened that door. My mom would knock on the door sometimes and make sure that nobody would answer. She would make sure that none of us answered because she didn't want her kids to be so gullible that they open the door for somebody. I remember one day, we lived on the 16th floor. I'm from New York City. I remember one day, firecrackers was going off. 4th of July, most likely. And I decided that I would, sorry, I didn't get no water with me. But I decided that I was going to drop some stuff from the 16th floor. I was so young. There was a guy smoking cigarettes on the floor below me, 15th floor. And that guy, I hated the smell of cigarettes, still do. So I'm dropping whatever I'm dropping. Nothing that'll hurt anybody because it's the 16th floor. You drop a pencil, you might literally hurt somebody, right? But I dropped something like, I don't know, like one of those tiny firecrackers or whatever the case may be. The guy was screaming to the floor above, which I was at, don't drop that, don't drop that. Stop, stop, stop. He got so angry, came upstairs to the 16th floor, knocked on the door. The neighbor was like, leave them alone, leave the kids alone. The mom's probably not home. He was like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. Needless to say, he didn't get in the house. Needless to say, they didn't call the cops. Grateful for that. But I learned not to continue to throw things down there, right? So in that moment, I realized, like, okay, I've never worked before in my life. What is life like when you're old enough to actually do stuff? And it's so crazy to think about that. It's so crazy to think about that when you've never really needed money. You're clothed, you're fed, you have a roof over your heads. I might not wear the clothes that I want. It may not come from money, but I understood that my mom was going out every single day to work. And I realized that if she had to work this hard because she's by herself, what am I going to do when I've never had to do it before? And how do you remain so consistent to where you can do that for the rest of your life? You see, people think that getting rich is hard. People think that being financially free is hard. You know what's hard? What's hard is paying into something your entire life and not receiving any benefit for it. Right now, I have a tenant that texted me last week that they were going to be late on rent. Texted me last week. There's a government shutdown going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. Food stamps, Section 8's not working. Now, she's not on Section 8, but there's so many things that she may have been benefited from as a single mother of 2 kids, and her mom lives with her, probably not working anymore because her mom looks a little bit older, and was definitely probably receiving food stamps and other, assistance, probably on Social Security, things of that nature. Texted me, said, hey, I'm going to be nearly 2 weeks late with the rent. They've been late for the last 4 months. For the last 4 months, they've been late every time, but they've paid. I'm about to go on vacation. I can afford the payment, but I can't afford to be allowing people to constantly be late. And I have other things that I'm doing with my life that I can't keep a tab on them. Because then they'll be like, oh, landlord is not there. I can do X, Y, and Z. I can, not pay until next month. And now you're 2 months behind. Oh, no, we can't have that. Right? So I'm just saying, as an example setter, that I can't necessarily allow that, but I understand that this tenant has been with me for about 4 years now. And so I give them a little bit of grace that they've finally gotten into a rough patch in their life. And what's so crazy is that I raise rents at a reasonable level. Like, I'm not at market rents right now. And I'm probably not going to be at market rents next year because I'm probably going to give them a discount in order to stay. But guess what? My property taxes do go up next year. And so that's not a benefit to me. And I'm not telling you to take this advice because that is not business sound advice. Business sound advice is to raise rents to market level. But people think that landlords don't have a heart, and I do. I have a heart. You've been at the property for X, Y, and Z, and you'll leave when you're done with the property, and then I got to spend money to fix it up and get somebody else in there for another 4 to 5 years. But while you're here, I want you to be treated like a human being. And the fact that you've been there for 4 years and you don't have a little bit of savings or cushion to pay me on time to where you're getting eviction notices every month, it tells me that people are truly living paycheck to paycheck. It tells me that people truly don't have the money to go on vacation. It tells me that people will constantly struggle their entire life, work all day to pay someone else. And for me, I think that's a lot harder than saying I'm going to dedicate 3 to 5 years to being financially free. I think that's a lot harder than dedicating 3 to 5 years to becoming financially free. You see? And I don't think that it just took 3 to 5 years, because I'll tell you this. I personally believe that if I had not went to college, I'd have had a lot more cash flow. I'd have been able to buy properties a lot sooner instead of paying off um, college loans. I never took out a loan, so I would just say paying off my college. Instead of paying that off, I could have purchased the property easily, especially in 2017, 2018, right? But instead, I paid that off. I landed a job at Amazon, and you all know how the story went from there. I just kept falling into money. I mean, it was COVID year. You got a bonus, you got a relocation package, you got all these things just flying on all cylinders. And then Trump, I think, gave you like $1,000 COVID relief or something like that during the time if you paid taxes. So money was just falling from the sky. Everybody was getting rich during COVID, whether you was working or not. I was upset actually, because I was actually clocking in. I was actually working a job that I truly loved, but at the same time, people was making just as much as me sitting on their couch. And so yeah, I was upset, but we was all getting to a bag. And so that was the thing that I really, really noticed. Like, I could have had multiple properties back then, but I wouldn't have had the relocation package, all that stuff, had I not went to college, gotten a degree, and been given that opportunity to work for Amazon. And so I say all that to say that instead of the 3 to 5 years that I insist on, it may have taken an additional 4 years on top of that, because I went to school, right? So if you account for all of that, that's at most 9 years of hard work in order to achieve financial success. But my success didn't start there. My success started with the respect for money. So this is where it all begins. This is where you got to start taking notes if you haven't been taking notes. My success started with my respect for money. Why do I respect money? I don't just accept any job. You might have to, and that's okay. Don't get offended by simple knowledge and simple understanding. Do not get offended by the truth. If you have to accept any job right now, that is where you're at. That is not where you will be, but that is where you're at. Respect it, understand it, and say, I'm getting out of that. But when I first started out and I graduated college, I worked 3 jobs, waiting for Amazon to just say, it's time for you to fly out. I had to wait till January 6th. I still remember to this day, my first day on the job, 2020, right? But I was working 3 jobs. I had Pizza Hut giving me 8 hours. And I was working at, I think, White Castle, getting 32 hours there. And that was my 40-hour week. And then I had another job. I can't even remember what it was. Can't even remember. I think I was doing security or something. So I was working 3 jobs because I didn't want to be at home after graduating college, and I got my siblings in the house looking at this college graduate who's not doing anything, not performing well. I couldn't wait. I got out the house, traveled to a whole new state. I showed them first and foremost that when you graduate, success is waiting for you. That was very important. Now, I told you all, from a young age, I looked around, 13, 14 years old. I said, how am I going to afford life? That was eye-opening. Most kids don't think about that. Most kids think about how they're getting fly and how they're dressing up for school. They want to impress everybody else. You know what that is today? Keeping up with the Joneses. I got a nice car. My neighbors ask me all the time, oh, you got a nice car. I want to see it. I want to drive it. I want to smell it. I want to be in it. But none of my neighbors have purchased the car. They understand too well the old philosophy of keeping up with the Joneses. You don't have to keep up with me. You don't have to do what I do. You can still experience some of the things that I experienced, and maybe you'll want to get it in the future. But in your time, not on mine. You see, I didn't have to keep up with the Joneses. I didn't have to dress up and dress real nice because I couldn't. So you know what I had to do? I had to develop a skill set. I had to actually talk to people. I had to actually garner respect. I had to actually garner trust. I had to actually garner true friendships that didn't require me to be this flashy, arrogant human being. I had to actually have a personality, and people actually had to like me because I couldn't offer them any money. So they actually had to like me for who I was. And you see, that not only relates to my male friendships, but also my female relationships. They had to actually like this individual, this guy right here. And so when I realized that you can actually get people to be in your presence, to what gravitate towards you, to dap you up every single day, to say, hey, Festus, how are you doing? Bro, what's up with you? Where you been? What's going on? Without having to get the occasional nice kicks. Where you got that shirt from? What store? Ooh, da 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 da. All of those conversations is how to spend money. Not one of them had came to me and said, yo, I want to make some money. Not one. But they'll be ready to spend what little they have on a little bit of excitement. Number 2, I started investing at 18. My friend showed me the stock market. He was trading pennies. At that point, I was already working at Domino's. I had $10,000 saved. Didn't know what to do with it. Started investing immediately. And I put $2,000 in the stock market. Everybody knows. I started trading about 100 of it. I was swing trading, day trading. I even got into options trading. And that's why I have this tattoo on my arm to tell me never to options trade again. It's not like I was losing money. I was making money. I did lose $6,000, but you could write that off in taxes. And then the last options trade I did was on Robinhood, where I got $2,000 in just 30 minutes. So I understand that there's money to be made in options trading, but I knew that it wasn't for me. It was like gambling. It was like sports betting. And people do get addicted to that. People do get that high. People do want to chase that easy money. $700 in 10 minutes is quick and easy. And all it took me was leveraging about 10 to 15,000. And I got 715 minutes, $2,000 in 30 minutes. These are quick gains. These are some people's paychecks in a week. You understand? Somebody's paycheck for a whole week, $2,000. I got that in 30 minutes. So when we talk about different things, that you have to shift your mindset and say, how many people actually win here? How many people are winning here? Let me start investing, not trading. Let me start investing, not trading. You see, businesses have to invest for you because you're too scared. All the time I hear from people 50, 60 years old, oh, I'm going to start investing now. You got to teach me how to invest. It's never too late to start. I will say that. But why didn't you start? Oh, I was scared. That's the left side over here. I was scared. I didn't want to lose money. Same person go on Amazon and buy things they don't need. Same person go to the grocery store and buy a whole bunch of junk food that doesn't support their body and kidney functions. Now, I'm not judging you for what you do, but we know what is right for yourself and what is wrong for yourself. And I'm not saying I don't indulge in these activities, because I absolutely do. But it never came before my financial freedom. That's the difference. That's the difference. And if you continue to do those things, that's cool. That's your life. You live it. Right? And so I want you to also understand me. Everything I say today is not a judgment of you. I'm not God. I don't judge. But what I will say is, we know what is good for your body and what is not. We know what's good for your mind and what is not. And if you do these things instead of the other things, you will continue to be where you're at. It's just as simple as that. Do we understand that? Yes? Let's move on. Hit the like button if you haven't already. So when people tell me, oh, I'm scared of losing money, I said, okay, how much money do you have in your bank account? None. Why don't you have none? I spent it. Okay, what did you spend it on? Nothing. You lost money. You lost money. You don't even know what you spent it on. Where did all your money go from your paycheck? You just had a paycheck last week or 2 weeks ago. Where did it all go? Do you know? I'm asking you. I know where all my money goes every time, every place, everywhere. I know when I just bought that Indian food yesterday, that samosa, that goat biryani, that garlic naan with, that sweet, tangy white sauce that they use, and that mango lassi. You gotta have a mango lassi. $27 and some change. $27 and some change. I didn't need that. I just bought $300 in groceries for the next 3 weeks. $300 in groceries, and I still went out to get some food. And I'm only one person. Can you imagine when I have a family, like what I'm gonna have to spend in my grocery budget? My grocery budget is probably gonna be a good 4 figures. With a whole family, like just a family of 3. My grocery budget is gonna be close to 4 figures because I eat $300 worth of food. That's $100 a week for me. $100 a week on groceries, and I'm still eating out. So guys, I love food. And you have things that you love that you will spend money on. But guess what? I wasn't even hungry. I wasn't even hungry. I had a whole steak. You know, steaks fill you up. I had a whole steak. And I said, you know what? I just want to munch on something while I watch this movie with a nice, pretty young lady. So that's why I did that. I wasn't even hungry, guys. And that's why I got to stay in the gym so I could look this good. Because, you know, when you eat as much as I do, you're going to need to stay in the gym. You're going to need to balance that out. So I say all that to say, like, people are scared of the markets. You scared to make money. You scared to lose money. But guess what? You're not scared to work for the rest of your life. That's crazy to me. Crazy to me. You know, the easiest place to make money in today's world is online. It's online. And the only place that's not trying to literally wipe away your existence is the stock market. That's the only place not trying to wipe away your existence and have you work for the rest of your life. But guess what? Even if you invest in the stock market, if you don't do any aggressive trading, any aggressive investments, and you don't have a lot of money to start, that compound interest is so slow, you'll be investing for 20, 30, even 40 years before you reach financial freedom. I didn't get financially free just investing in the stock market. You see, you get financially free leveraging not only your stocks, but all of your assets. So if anybody knows this story, the first time I bought my first property, I leveraged the stock market and I leveraged my savings account. I was invested in the Acorns app. I had about $11,000, $12,000 in there. $2,000 of that was growth from the stock market. Took that out, added my savings to it, bought my first property. Bought my first property. It was about $20,000 at the time. That was my down payment. Not including inspections and all the other miscellaneous things that you have to do. But $20,000, boom, bought my first property. Right? Leveraging my assets, leveraging the markets, leveraging everything before buying this property. If I decided today I want to leverage that $86,000, buy something, you can easily buy something. That's 20% down on certain properties today, right? Like maybe a $200,000 property, easily 20% down on one of those. People are probably like, wait, where are you going to get a $200,000 property at? In my state? Yeah, you can do that here. Or continue to let that compound. I make over 10 grand a year in the stock market every year. That is like I make over 28% returns in the stock market every year. 22 to 28%. We've talked about this plenty of times. You guys know what my numbers are. You guys see what I'm doing. So, you know, we're not even close to the end of 2025 and we're going strong. We're hitting it at all cylinders. We keep on firing. But if you are afraid of the stock market, today is the time for you to wake up. It took my brothers 5 years of me telling them to invest in the stock market, I just stopped. I stopped 2 years ago. I just stopped. Guys, I stopped. And now they just started investing just a few months ago because they see their brother is on a rocket ship. So if it took my own brothers 5 years, I can't imagine you guys listening to a guy on YouTube how long it's going to take you to take life seriously and say, yo, I don't want to do this forever. How can I start to leverage my money, leverage my assets to work for me so I don't have to work anymore? Well, the first thing to do before you even invest, I told you the first time I started to invest, I had $10,000 saved working for Domino's, right? Don't skip steps. Do not skip steps. How much did I invest? $2,000. I know this like the back of my head. You know why? Because it was my life. I lived it. I don't need a script. I don't need to script this out for you. $2,000. How much of that, of a percentage of my assets or my net worth at the time? About 20%. What is 20% of your net worth? Are you willing to put that into the stock market right now? Now, my net worth is probably a lot more tied to the stock market. And again, I have $500,000 in real estate. You can Google me. You can look me up. I'm on the auditor site, right? Like, you should know. Like, I got some money in the stock market now. Like, not just the 85, but the 401ks, the Roth IRAs, all these things, all of that together is real assets, real tangible assets. Liquid assets, I would say. Right, the tangible assets is going to be the stuff like gold, like real estate that you can see, touch, feel, smell every single day. When I walk up to a property, they know, oh, I'm the landlord. Like, yeah, that's him. It's a little different. It's a little different, guys. So, get out of your own head. First, have an emergency fund. What did I say? I have more than 3 savings accounts. One of them is an emergency fund. You know what that emergency fund is? At least 12 months of expenses. Some people say you need 3. Some people say you need 6. Some people say you need 12. I think 12 is enough. For me, you know what? I'd like 24. Now, I'm not going to do that because you know what the rich do with money? They invest it. They make it work for them. And 24 months of savings is not allowing my money to work for me. 12 months of savings is already pretty conservative. And so keeping that at a year's worth of assets, and that's going to look different for everybody. If you're a doctor and you spend $10,000 a month, you need $120,000 in your savings account. Right? That's just 12 months. That's just 12 months, guys. So it looks different for everybody. For a billionaire who spends $1 million a month, they're going to need $12 million in their savings account. $12 million just to say, hey, I'm comfortable here, right? And so when you look at all these things, you got to understand, where am I at in life? I'm not telling you to wait until you have a 12-month emergency fund before you start investing in the stock market. But I am telling you that if you don't have at least 3 months in your emergency fund before you start investing, then you're working backwards. You're absolutely working backwards. Because what you see all the time is that people get into a rock and a hard place, and the first thing they do, they take money out of their investment accounts. You see, one thing about me is I've seen it so much and so often, and unfortunately, it's normally with the people that look like me. Unfortunately, it's with the people that look like me. It's because they don't invest on their own. They normally have the companies invest for them. They get a 401k, they get a Roth IRA, they leave the company, or they figure out, oh wow, the company's been investing for me this whole time. They know how much money they have in there. It's time to buy a new car. It's time to cash out. It's time to take that 10% penalty. And it's so funny because it happens all the time, and it's so heartbreaking because these same people who didn't know how that money got there, how that money was increasing on its own, they now want to go ahead and just waste it all away. Waste it all away. It happens every single time. I haven't met a person yet that looked like this that noticed what they had and didn't go ahead and do that. Especially if they didn't do it on purpose, especially if they didn't invest it on their own and the company invested it for them, they find a way to F everything up. They just find a way. Oh, I've been wanting this new car, but you didn't save for it. Somehow, though, when you didn't have the money, you was able to live your life the way you was living your life. And, things just magically worked out. No. You had a forced savings account because you couldn't do it on your own. You didn't know how to be an actual adult. That's what being an adult is. Putting money aside and saying, I'm going to make this work for me regardless of what's going on in my life. And being consistent in those principles. When I was putting money away every single day in the stock market, I can tell you guys, $200 a month was not making me rich quick. It was not. It was not. It did not feel like I was on a rocket ship to the moon. But every time I looked at my account year over year over year, I set small goals every single time. This year, I want to make this much in dividends a month. I want to make this much in dividends a year. I want to make... It was never about the size of my portfolio, but more so the size of the cash flow I was bringing in. Because again, I wasn't worried about being rich. I was worried about how much passive income I had in order to be financially free. And so, again, understanding that mindset shift gave me small goals and small achievable steps. We don't have dreams, we have goals. A dream is something that you may never see. A dream is something you close your eyes to envision. Goals are something that you can actually obtain right here in real life. When you take that breath, when you're living, yeah, right here in real life, I have goals and I'm going to achieve every single last one of them. 6 figures in a stock market account, that's a goal. Very achievable goal. I can achieve that today, right now. Right? So just understanding that we don't have dreams, we have goals and we work towards those. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. If you've been one of those people that your company had to invest for you in order for you to be successful, understand that you could have did that yourself. Understand you could have put $100 away when you thought you didn't have the money, when you thought you didn't have wiggle room, when you thought you didn't have bringle room. I know people who were struggling. They lost $80,000 in income. They're now making $40,000 a year. The company was putting away $100 for them every 2 weeks. Struggling, couldn't take care of their kids, couldn't take care of their bills, couldn't take care of this, couldn't take care of that. But somehow, some way, everything was getting paid for. They left the company because they found a better offer. They're now making the money they want to make. You know what they did? Liquidated everything from that account. Their 401k, they just took everything out. Didn't know they had it before. But when they left, that company gave them a call and said, hey, you got a few $1,000s in here. What do you want to do? You want to roll it over? Nah, give that to me right now. That's what they said. Give that to me right now. I need that. Even though you're making twice as much money as you was before, you don't really need it. You should keep investing it. Now that you're making twice as much money, you just went back to the same old habits, spending more. Instead of being conservative and working with less, you was just struggling with $40,000. Increase your lifestyle to 50, and then keep the 60, 70, 80, the extra 30,000 to do other things like save, invest, and really, start your life on the right footing. But no, lifestyle creep. You gotta do more. You gotta spend more. Sometimes it really baffles me. Where does the money go? Like, where do people put this money? Because it's not going into their pocket. It's not going into investments. Where does the money actually go? Because I don't see anything new on you. Where does the money actually go? Does it just go into thin air? Does it just go into the cyberspace? What did you buy that made your life different from last month? Because again, I am not seeing it. I am not seeing it. What did you buy that left you broke the same way you was broke last month? because I am not seeing it. So, in my pursuit of financial freedom, I will tell you that compound interest is so slow, especially when you just get started. Especially when you just get started. People start off with $100, $50, $1,000, $2,000 like I did. Guess what? That's no money in a whole year. 20% return, that's $200. And that's exactly what I made my first year. I made $200 in the stock market my first year. Now I might see $2,000 in a day in the stock market. In a day. And eventually, 10 years from now, that will be nothing. Nothing at all. So what I'm trying to tell you is that do not lose focus. Do not lose hope. Stay consistent. Stay very consistent. Because yes, although it looks like nothing right now, you are working towards something so much greater in your life. Invest in companies you like, know, love, use, and believe in for the future. And you will be set. You will be set. I use Apple. I know Google. I know these companies. You understand? I'm not telling you to invest in any of these companies, but I have invested in these companies. And these companies have worked for me while I sleep. Yes, I'm making money while I sleep. I wake up $25, $30, $40, $40, $50, $60, $100. I wake up to that. I used to get the notifications every day. I'm about to start putting it back on my phone. I used to get the notifications every day just waking up to money. When you have 28 companies paying you a dividends, you wake up to money almost every day or quarterly basis. Some of these companies pay me on a monthly basis. You understand? That Indian food that I just paid for, I got paid that already in dividends this month. Easy. Easy peasy, 27, that's easy. Look at my portfolio size. 2% of that would let you know, like, okay, he's getting some dividend income coming in. And then I got others and others and others. And when you start placing money out, guys, like, continue to be hyper focused. Now, I don't want to just talk about the stock market because the stock market alone is not going to make you rich. It's not. I mean, it can, but you have to be a very aggressive investor to just get rich off the stock market. But yes, you'll get rich, especially over 30 years or 20 years. But that means you have to work every single day. You have to work all the time, which you're going to do whether you're renting a place or whether you're owning one. So guess what? Why don't you go into homeownership? Because people will say, oh yeah, the cost of the down payment, property taxes, fixing it up, insurance costs, all that stuff, maintenance, repairs. You don't want to have to deal with that. And I completely understand. I know so many people who do not want to be landlords, but that doesn't mean you can't be an owner of your own home. Because when you own your own home, there's a fixed expense. Now, these property taxes, listen, the city loves your money. These property taxes go up every 2 years like a tsunami, like a tycoon, like they're crashing into the land, okay? These property taxes continue to rise, but that's because the price of the house is also rising. And so with that being said, you got to account for that and understand that if the property taxes are going up and these houses aren't paid off in full, then people are going to pay more in rent as well, because the landlords are going to continue to subsidize for that and continue to make less money. No, they're going to pass that on to the consumer, right? If you're consuming the land, you're consuming the resources. And I just told you I had a tenant that, although my property taxes may rise, I may keep their rent low. That's because I'm being a nice guy, but that's not business minded. It's not. And I'm not telling anyone to take that step, because you got to make money in this business, guys. So with that being said, now granted, I still get a year of paid mortgage where I don't have to put in to pay it off. And that's 25%, 10%, whatever percentage of a 30-year mortgage is 5 years. That's a percentage that I didn't have to pay because that same tenant was there the whole time paying consistently, right? So when I look at that, I also look at the trade-off. I look at the reward and I say, wow, that's a lot of time to not have to actually do anything after my initial investment of the down payment, and I feel really good about that. So when it comes to the real estate and having a fixed cost and fixed expense, now you're looking at an asset class that really starts to leverage financial freedom, because every single day, every single month, every single year, you get closer to that goal. Not only in the stock market are you achieving more gains, a higher net worth, and more goals month over month over month, that dividends are starting to compound and give you passive income. But now in the real estate market, you're also doing the other thing where month after month after month, you're paying it off, you're paying it down. The compound interest is getting less on that end because you owe less. And 9 times out of 10, if you just got tenants in there, now you're not even paying for it. So guys, it's a double whammy. You're shooting on all cylinders. But here's the thing, like, not everybody has the ability to say, you know what, I want to rent out rooms, or I want to rent out a home, because you might have a whole family to take care of. And I've heard this plenty of times. And yes, people might go and purchase a duplex. Those are people who said, you know what, I'm willing to be a little uncomfortable. Let me purchase a duplex and let me start life. Let me purchase a duplex and start life. I knew a girl who, their parents died. They got $100,000 in inheritance. And there's some houses in bad areas. I will say it's bad areas that you can get for like $150,000 right now today. I said, why not go and get that, put $70,000, $80,000 in, take 10 to furnish it up, take 10, put that in your savings account, and now you owe less than half. You owe less than half on a home. It's like $600, $700 a month, way less than what you was paying in rent. And you're gonna own that. You're gonna be financially free before you can even blink. Before you can blink, you'll wake up one day and say, man, I'm paying that off. But no, instead, people make boneheaded decisions, buy cars, buy things that depreciate in value, don't add any value to their lives. And then they wonder where it all went. When that 100 goes to 80, then that 80 goes to 75, then that 75 goes to 60, and then you're like, whoa. I've almost got down. I've almost chewed down half of this. What do I do from here? That sucks. That sucks. That sucks, guys. It really does. Because financial freedom was so close, but yet so far. And you realize so quickly how little $100,000 is. But if you had that number one thing, which is a respect for money, you wouldn't have fallen for that trap. You wouldn't have fallen for it. You know, there's some houses, you could find them somewhere, probably in Alaska, probably in Oklahoma, probably in a few places these days where you could actually get a home for $100K. Like, paid off, free and clear. A home for $100K. I'm not talking about a trailer. I'm not talking about none of that. I'm talking about an actual home for $100K. You know what? I'll do you one better. Find some land that already has sewer installed. Get some plumbing done, $10,000. You do put like a mobile home on there. Not that regular stuff. Get you a boxable. Get you something that costs $50,000 and looks real nice. All in $70,000. Nice land, water, sewer, everything is good. Paid off home for under $80,000 with plumbing and everything installed. Under $80,000. Guys, we don't have to be broke in America. We don't. There's so many ways to go out and get it, but people are like, I don't want to sacrifice this. I don't want to I promise you, you don't get nowhere without sacrifice. There's not a billionaire today who didn't sacrifice. There's not one. Not one. Most people are not going to be multimillionaires because of somebody else. They're going to be multimillionaires off of their own merit, off of what they're willing to do and what they're willing to sacrifice. If I wasn't willing to sacrifice anything, I wouldn't be where I'm at. If I wasn't willing to sacrifice my Acorn stock market portfolio and my savings account in order to buy that property, I wouldn't have had the same tenants that I've had for 4 years now today. If I wasn't willing to sacrifice sleep, working 7 days a week for 3 months at Tim Hortons in order to buy that property, even with all my savings and investments, that people would say you're lucky to have purchased that house. If I didn't sacrifice and literally have 21 days where I worked straight without rest, I had to text my boss's boss for a day off. On my day off, after 21 days of working, I got a text from my boss asking me why I'm not at work. Had to tell him that your boss gave me a day off because I've been working for 21 days without a break. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had my first house. Guys, there's always sacrifice. There's always something that you must do and overcome. But all of that's in the past. All of that is in the past. But I promise you, it's still traumatic to this day. Like, imagine working 21 days straight. You had a father, you had a mother who had to go to work every single day, no days off, and they probably did that for a few years just so that they can get a vacation or two. I did that for 21 days, and I'm traumatized for life. Traumatized for life over that. So I can't imagine. I know there are some fathers who work 7 days a week. They get up and get it. They put a smile on their face. They say everything is good, but bruh, what? Everything is good? Are you sure? Are you sure? Wake up, boom. Wake up, boom. I was a zombie, guys. I was a zombie for that first one. Tasting it. 20 plus thousand in the account. Still a zombie. Still a zombie trying to get to it. Always a sacrifice. But guess what? Now that money comes so quick. 20,000 now is like, it's a lot of money. I respect money so much that I can never say it's not no money. But 20,000 now, like, I'll give that to a family member. I've done that plenty of times. So what I'm saying is, like, you gotta continue to work at it. You gotta continue to respect money. You gotta stop being fearful and actually take risks that are worth taking. You know that the stock market is what makes most people millionaires today, right? Is buying a property and being in the stock market. That's your average millionaire today, the average. Not the superhero, not the person who did it the best. No, average. You don't gotta be smart to make money in the stock market. Buy the S&P 500, call it a day. If that's what you want to do, just buy the S&P 500, call it a day. If you don't know what the S&P 500 is and you haven't looked it up after I said it like 3 times, then that's on you. But guys, that was the first step to financial freedom. When you buy that property, you now have a fixed expense. Your rent isn't just increasing year over year over year. You're still investing in the stock market as you've been. You're still saving as you've been. And now you got a home that nobody can tell you what to do. Oh my goodness, you just feel a little different. Guys, I was a zombie, but I felt different when I woke up. I felt different when I left out the door. I could go through the front or the back. Nobody could tell me what to do. I felt different when I left my boxes on the floor. I felt different when I knew I didn't have to clean it up and get it ready for somebody else. It felt different. 22, 21. I think I was 22 when I bought my first house. 22 when I bought the second one. It came so quick, the second one. It came so quick. So different. Now, guys, we was in different times. Yeah, it was a pandemic. Interest rates were super low. But that didn't mean that I didn't have to save up tens of thousands of dollars. You don't get lucky just doing that. You have to prepare in order to be ready to access these opportunities when they arrive. Right? You have to prepare for that. AI is on the verge of taking over. We've heard it. Nobody's telling you what companies to invest in for AI. I have to do my research after this video. But guess what? I'm going to know exactly what I need to invest in as soon as the night is over. I'm going to know because I know I cannot be left behind. People are losing jobs left and right. Target is firing people. Amazon is firing people. Google is firing people. Everybody's getting fired, replaced with automation. And I'm pretty sure they're all using the same company to replace you. I'm pretty sure because that's how it always is. They're going to go to the best suitor with the best price, with the best infrastructure in order to get it done. Whatever that company is, I need to know, because I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to invest in what is replacing human beings, because I know that when we're no longer needed, I'm still going to be benefiting. I'm still going to be getting money from that. I'm going to be financially free because of that. I'm not going to have to work again because of that. And everybody else will be looking for the next job. I'm going to be looking at how that job can replace you. And it's funny to say, but it's the truth. Because when you start playing like a boss and you stop acting like you're a servant to someone else, you're going to realize that I don't want to live that way. And you might have to live that way in order to get to where I'm at today or further. But you don't stay there. You don't stay there. I'm not where I want to be, guys. I looked at a $700,000 home. Full transparency. $700,000 home today. I knew that if I wanted this, I would have to sell off my properties. I would have to liquidate stocks. I would have to liquidate my savings account in order to purchase this home. And I would still have to, pay a monthly payment that is more than what I would like. $700,000 property, beautiful property, beautiful property. A little out the way, but not too far from everything. Less than 30 minutes from everything still. I said, wow. Wow, wow, wow. There's always something in life that you want. It's not a need. It's not a need. I don't need it. I don't need it. But when you're ambitious, when you have drive, you set new goals for yourself. You know that if you had that home, it's a different level of aura, different level of respect. When you wake up every day, you breathe that air in, you're going to feel different when you walk out that door. It's going to make me more money. That's what it's going to do. It's going to make me more money. Not because I'm advertising it or showing it off, but because I know that I want more out of life. When I wake up and I have more out of life, I know that I'm going to want more out of life just waking up to that. Right? Waking up to that. So we don't have dreams, we have goals, and that's achievable. That is absolutely a goal. Not a dream home, a goal home. 700,000, and I'm already factoring in inflation and all that stuff. 5 years from now, that's $1 million. You got to make another mill in 5 years in order to afford a home like that. Then you need $200,000 a year. Not before taxes, after taxes. $200,000 after taxes. So guys, again, be laser focused. Be laser focused, whether it's stock market, whether it's real estate. Don't try and do everything at once. Just focus up. Have a savings. Get out of debt. Start investing. Number one thing I learned very early on, don't invest money that you need. Don't invest money that you need. You see this $86,000 right here? I never once did I need it in the last 5 years. Never once did I need it. I have an emergency fund. My emergency fund is damn near as much as this. That's just the truth. Just my emergency fund. And again, I have 3 savings accounts. And that's why I said I got to start using my savings, because I got way too much money sitting in savings right now. And that should never be the case. The rich do not just have money sitting in savings. And I'm not even saying that I'm rich. I'm saying that the rich don't just have their money sitting in savings. So I say all that to say, make your money start working for you, but never invest money that you need, because you don't want to be the person pulling their money out every single day because they now need it for something else when you should have already had an emergency fund. People ask me all the time, where should I invest my money? I said, do you have an emergency fund? No, I don't. Did you fix your car? No, I didn't. Did you pay your rent? Not yet. Did you pay off that credit card? No, I'm going to get to that later. I'm just paying the interest right now. What? I've never paid interest in my life on a credit card. Never, not once in my life. I've had a credit card for over 10 years. I've never once paid interest on a credit card. Not once. Dave Ramsey is a rich billionaire, wealthy billionaire. Let me not insult him by saying rich. Wealthy, almost billionaire. Doesn't have any debt whatsoever. Now, do you want to be a mega wealthy person? You need to start a business. Not work for somebody else, but start your own business. Sell your own products. Sell your own services. Do you want to be rich? You need to just be smart. Don't get into unnecessary debt. Don't overspend. Have a budget. Understand assets versus liabilities. Understand your performance, how to perform, and most importantly, be consistent. Not only in what you say, but what you do. A lot of people know what to do. They say one thing, but they do another. Their habits are so bad. And it's not bad in the fact that I'm judging you, but bad because you know what you need to do and you're not doing it for yourself. So you know what's right for you and you know what's wrong for you, but you continue to do what's wrong for you. Stop it. Stop blaming everybody else for what you are fully capable of. You know you can put $100 away, but you don't. You know you can pay off that credit card, but you want to go on that trip. You want to buy this thing. You know you don't need to go out and eat, but you don't want to cook. You don't want to buy groceries. You don't wash dishes. You don't clean your room. You know you could just go to a laundromat, but now you want to have that $2,000 laundry washer at a rental that you're renting. It's crazy. You know you didn't need that flower vase. You didn't need those new glasses. You just bought new clothes. I remember when I first started, I had the same clothes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It don't matter. It don't matter. Why do you have to be so focused on what doesn't matter to show off for people who don't like you, who don't know you, who don't care for you? I had a coworker who I thought was a really chill coworker, still is. I don't think I know, right? Cool coworker. They decided to quit the job. They didn't let me know. I'm not their boss. I'm not anybody important to them. I was just a coworker. I realized that I was just a coworker. We laughed. We had a great conversation. I actually enjoyed her company. And I wasn't notified of her departure. That sucked. But guess what? You know, that was her life. She was living it and she didn't care anything for me. She didn't care how I dressed. She didn't care how I talked. She didn't care how I did my job. She just cared about her paycheck. And when she was ready to leave, she left. If you have to wear the same clothes for 4 years in order to reach a semblance of financial freedom, why does that matter to anyone else but you? Stop caring what people think. You know what made me feel good? Not the fact that I could go out and purchase an item, but the fact that I knew I could and I didn't have to. The only time I felt bad was when I couldn't do something because I couldn't. Like I literally couldn't. I didn't have the money to do it. If people was going to Miami for spring break when I was in college, I couldn't do that. I was preparing. Preparation. I was preparing for the next college semester, having the money ready so that I wouldn't have to take out a loan. I knew how much I needed. That's not luck, guys. It's saying I cannot do this right now because it would affect my ability to do something else. I had to work. I didn't go home for spring break. I didn't go home for winter break. I didn't even know that the colleges had a certain section in the campus for kids who didn't go home during the break. Yes, a certain section in the campus for us because we didn't go home. Like we had to stay on campus. Rooming with people for a few weeks that I never knew or ever saw because I was working. I knew it was smarter for me to work than to go home and make no money. I knew it was smarter for me to work than to go to spring break. Again, sacrifice. You didn't just wake up and say, oh, I got $30,000 to pay for college. No, I decided to go away for school. School was free for me. I had scholarships, football scholarships, all types of scholarships. I decided to go away and pay for school. Some people would say that's dumb, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. But that was the decision that I made, and with that decision, it came a responsibility that I had to pay for. And so I paid it. I didn't go see family. I didn't go home. I didn't do these things because I had to make sure I had money so I can pay for school. I graduated debt-free. That was number one. That gave me a real head start because you got an education, you got a bachelor's degree and no debt. That's almost unheard of in today's society. The average person has about $40,000 in student loan debt. $40,000. And then after that, you get relocation packages, all this stuff, but you never forget where you started. You invest, you save, and you have all your expenses here, your budget and everything. You're making sure everything looks right. Everything is accounted for. You respect money because you didn't have it before. You're anticipating expenses and you're not just gonna anticipate spending. You see, some people put money on a credit card and say, oh, next week I get paid. That's ridiculous. I've never put money on a credit card that I didn't already have the money to pay off. Not once ever in my life have I done that. Not once ever in my life have I done that. When I hear a family member talk about putting stuff on a credit card because they're out of work for a few days or a few weeks, it breaks my soul. Because that is a habit that can continue on. And we don't want that. Now, I understand being in college and things are expensive because, guys, 3 months of college is like $8,000 in expenses. $8,000 in expenses for 3 months is pretty rough on a college student, 18, 19, 20 years old. I can understand how you don't have that money. I can understand that. And then yet, for most people, I believe it's like 43% will actually use their college degree. So how many of them are actually benefiting from that? $16,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year. How many people are actually benefiting from that? How many people's salaries actually match that? The average salary in the U.S. is $53,000. Average salary, $53,000. How are you benefiting from $100,000 in student loans? So, again, get out of debt. Have an emergency fund. When you have an emergency fund, you're no longer going to need the money that you're investing. If you don't need the money that you're investing, you're already off to a good start because you're not going to be pulling it out. You're going to allow it to compound. You're going to allow it to grow. You're going to allow your assets to mature and do things that it's never done before work for you. Yeah. And when you've done that, you can start looking at possibilities. You can start looking at opportunities. You can start opening the door for things that you've never had before and never done before. Adventures that you've never thought of. Vacations that are no longer an inconvenience or a debted expense, but paid for out of your pocket without the need to subsidize it with a credit card or offset the cost by going into future debt. A perpetual cycle that so many people live in today. How are you going to not work for the next 40, 50, or 60 years consistently? Are you terrified of that yet? Are you terrified of not ever changing? Are you terrified of not having done the research to be financially free? Are you terrified of saying, damn, I'm in my 20s? The majority of people that watch me, they're in their 30s and 40s. Their 30s and 40s. Are you terrified that you let a decade go by where you did not amass $100,000 cash, liquid? You can't touch it, feel it, smell it. Are you terrified that you still have to clock into work and if you miss the paycheck, your whole life would be upended? Are you terrified it's a government shutdown that was going on and people was out of work? That could you have worked a job like that and still been good? Could you? Could you? I say all that to say, like, do you want to be rich or do you want to be financially free? Figure that out and then follow those who are on the path that you want to be on. Don't take advice from somebody who's never done what you've done or never been where you've been or hasn't gone where you've gone. I don't care how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. And if you ain't keeping none of it, then you're definitely not somebody that I'd like to follow. If somebody says, "Oh, I make $1 million a year and I spend $700,000 a year," I'm not following you. I'm not looking at what you're doing. I'm not trying to emulate where you're going. No. Somebody who makes $500,000 but saves $300,000 is doing better than you. So at the end of the day, guys, where do you want to be in life? Are you materialistic? If so, that's okay. Find the balance. Find what you need in order to be successful. There are many multi-millionaires who have 100,000 purses. That's more than $100,000 each. But guess what? They have a lifestyle that can account for that because they set themselves up to where they wouldn't have to worry about those type of things. I need you to do that for yourself as well. I need you to start taking the steps right now in order to change your future for the better. Stop making excuses. Stop allowing yourself to destroy your financial future. Stop allowing yourself to go into more debt. Cut up the credit cards if you don't know how to actually behave. Stop allowing yourself to just go out and eat. If you can cook, make food at home. Stop. Shit, I don't care if you eat just oatmeal every single day and boiled eggs. If that's what you need to do in order to get yourself on the right page, then that's what you need to do. That's exactly what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, we're all about being successful. We're all about financial freedom. We're all about investing for the future. And I need you to understand that you don't get there without sacrifice. You don't. So if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You know I post on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.